Buenos dias from beautiful Barrio Huanuca, Matagalpa, Nicaragua. Today is May 8th, Thursday. I had this video prepared yesterday about the events of the last week, and due to several technical difficulties and an unholy trinity of issues, I am reposting this video. So today's topic is the redundant trips to Migracion, my first chicken bus rides, and the current processes for filing for Pensionado Residencia. So we are going to be recording this in a redundant manner. With that being said, I want to give you a shout out. As of May 5th, it was our third month here on the channel. I am up to 68 subscribers. Thank you. Before we forget, help me feed the YouTube algorithm gods. Like, share, subscribe, send in comments, questions, concerns. I am retired. I have a lot of time on my hands. The only other thing I have on my plate now that I've completed Migracion as far as I can, and I've got the long-term lease, is my Spanish classes, which I'll be doing in about 5 hours. I'll be going to class today later in the afternoon. So let's start with, I needed to go to Migracion. I've got all my documentation completed that I knew of, and I was trying to go last week. May 1st in Nicaragua is Labor Day, and the government shut down for a 4-day weekend. Normally, Migracion would have been open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They are closed on Sundays. They were closed those 3 work days. I got my buddy Ron, who you saw in the Interpol Part 2 video, who took me to Interpol the second time around. My former tour guide from October of 22, great guy. He was able to grab me and take me down to Managua for the day on Monday, Cinco de Mayo. And Cinco de Mayo is not a holiday here. That is a Mexican holiday that's celebrated in the United States. So we left Matagalpa at 6 a.m. We got into town a little after 8. Ron is bilingual. In fact, he teaches English as second language online. He was not allowed to come in with me, so we already knew that attorneys could no longer file at Migracion on your behalf. And we'd also heard the attorneys were not allowed to come in with you. Come to find out, the only people allowed to go into the building are those actually applying for residency, citizenship, an extension of a visa, a passport, updating their cedula, which is your national ID card, any of those purposes. Other than that, you're not allowed to come in the building. We were assured there was going to be plenty of English speakers inside to assist me. So I get in through the first door. I ask a question at the first desk. I was kind of directed to go this way. I go this way, and you get to the main entrance, and they're forming 2 lines. One line is for nationals, and the other is for foreigners. So they don't know this exact, but obviously I don't look like I was born here. So they put you into the foreigner line. When I spoke to the person at the customer service desk, the information desk, I was given a ticket number and told to go wait. So when you come in, there's basically 3 large sections. There's a total of 30 booths with employees behind, many, not all. The middle section is for paying, and the section to the right is primarily for foreigners, and the section way over to the left would be people renewing their passport as a Nicaraguan national, updating their cedula as a national, things like that. Well, I have a ticket number, and I'm waiting to be called, and there's a couple different letters and numbers, but anyways, I have F23, and the last F that was served was 3, so I supposedly have 20 people ahead of me. There's FR numbers, and there's D numbers. There's only one person facilitating all the F numbers of all these windows, so we're going to fast forward into the story here. I waited 3.5 hours for my number to be called. I got up to the individual, and I was politely informed that I had been given the wrong number, I was in the wrong line, and basically the last 3.5 hours had been wasted. I was also instructed, and this was the one person that does speak English. So again, kudos to Lester at Migracion. You are an absolute rock star. There was no one there bad. A mistake was made. It happens. I'm a former government employee. I was in customer service. I get it. But somebody put me in the wrong queue to be seen. Okay. I was very grateful. I was very gracious. I just found out 3.5 hours of my time was wasted. I took a breath and I looked over and I repeated my mantra of jubilado, no tengo prisa, which means I'm retired, I'm not in a hurry. He was very happy to hear that I wasn't, going postal. He said he would get me into the next line. I'd be seen as quick as possible. I wasn't the immediate person seen in the proper line, but I was seen within a half hour. So this was Monday still. So now I've been there 4 hours. And I get to the window, and I have all my paperwork compiled, and I hand her my passport. The individual working that window, it was not English savvy. Again, my lack of Spanish is my problem. It's not the host nation's problem. The assumption would be, if you're working in an immigration office with a lot of foreigners that come from a handful of particular countries, you'd have more people that were bi or trilingual. But that's an assumption, and it was wrong. So either way, my barrier to language is my burden, not Nicaragua's burden. So we managed, and you're not allowed to use your phone up at the desk, and you can't take photos of the government employees and things like that. I was allowed to bring out my phone to do Google Translator to get a few questions answered, but I was provided a very long list, and this list is currently posted on YouTube right now under posts for the static images. So if you're thinking of applying for any of the 3 kinds of residency in Nicaragua, this is the current list as of this week. That does not mean that this won't change. So another point to be known is it's very difficult from outside of Nicaragua, and even from the internet, to find valid, accurate information, because it's a small country and they're not vested in making the world know their process. You pretty much have to get here to find out whether the information you thought was valid is still valid. So I was unaware of 2 documents that were needed on here. So I was turned away on Monday. So again, nothing against the individual, the bearer of bad news. It wasn't her fault. She wasn't short with me, but we did have a language barrier. She brought Lester over to explain a couple things. And she asked me why my attorney wasn't with me, and you're not allowed to bring anybody in. So I was confused on why she was expecting an attorney to be with me, but either way, she did allow me to bust my phone out and call my attorney, who translated to me that these documents were needed, and I was not going to be able to complete my mission on Monday. Very disheartening, but again, it's not an individual's fault that the information wasn't available. So before I left, I was able to take care of one of the 3 things she identified, and that is you need to go over to the middle windows and pay $3 US for the application form, known as the Formulario de Ciudad, your soliciting residency. You cannot get this form online. You cannot take a photocopy of it. The forms are individually numbered and stamped by the government, so you can't pre-fill it before you get there. Many people will have to wait to be seen, grab the form. If you're fluent in Spanish, you can sit there and fill it out. If you're not fluent in Spanish, you're going to take it home and you're going to work on it and then have to return back to Managua's Migracion. So I had a cheat sheet. I could have sat there and filled it out, but I had the other 2 documents still missing. So I had Ron's assistance for the day. And we had 2 other things I wanted to do while we were in Managua, trying to bundle these things since it's about a 2.5 hour drive each way to Managua, and I don't have my own car. So we left. He picked me up again. We managed to go over to PriceSmart. I grabbed this computer chair that I'm sitting in right now, static photo behind the form, already posted on YouTube, and a computer desk over at a Radio Shack. So Radio Shack still exists outside of the U.S. So I got a gamer's desk, I got a nice computer chair, I got a couple extra pillows at the PriceSmart, which is almost Costco. So it wasn't a total loss. I still needed to get that form. I paid the $3 US. The signs will say 50 Cordoba for it, but you do have to pay in US dollars. They will give change. They do not accept 50s. They do not accept 100s. So this country pretty much runs with the dual US to Cordoba currency. This country pretty much runs on US $20 bills. You don't see a lot of 10s. I haven't seen a $5 bill. The only ones were the ones I carried. So unless you're getting change from a large place that's giving you change in US dollars, which is rare, they almost always try to give you change back in Cordoba because they want you spending Cordoba in their country. It's their money. The values are equal. The value is pegged out at 36 and change to 1. So there's no financial benefit to use one over the other than if you're going to live here, we're going to encourage you for your normal operations to use Cordoba. And if you have a very large transaction, then dollars make sense. So I went away with the formula that I needed to complete. I had my marching instructions, and I had told my attorney, Pablo, over the phone that I would see him Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., to facilitate these other 2 forms. Because, a reminder, my medical certificate expires this Saturday. I had less than 5 days before it expired. Now I'm leaving there on Monday. Now I have 4 days before it expires. So, Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., I'm at Pablo's office, and he is explaining to me these 2 forms needed. And I was a little confused. When you're filling out the Formulario de Ciudad, the application form, the very last question is for a small paragraph for you to explain why you're seeking residency. And I'd already written this out, and I'd already had it translated into Spanish, so I had to rewrite all this again. The hands don't do good anymore thanks to the rheumatoid, but I took my time to try to fill out the 5-page form as articulate and clean of handwriting as I could, which is a pretty big effort these days. Typing is difficult. So I filled out that, and he created these other forms. So one of the 2 forms I needed was a formal letter to the director of Migracion stating why I want residency. Now, in my mind, being former human resource admin personnel, I find this highly redundant, but it's not my system. And if you want residency, you're going to get this form filled out. So it needs to be like an official type letterhead, formal address letter. I don't pretend to know formal office correspondence format in Nicaragua, so I have my local attorney fill it out. The other form, which I also found to be redundant, was they wanted a declaration notaria de fuentes de ingreso. They want a statement notarized by your local attorney stating what your sources of income are. I've already submitted my VA benefits letter, which is apostilled by the U.S. State Department, which has been translated into Spanish by a local official Spanish translator and a notary of that statement and the translation. I have the same thing for my Social Security benefits letter. I have the same thing for my state of Florida retirement letter. So you've already got all the sources of income documented, authenticated, translated, notarized. They want a notarized summary. Again, use your local attorney to do that. So Pablo worked on these 2 forms for me. I filled out the application. I ran across the street, grabbed breakfast. I had to go to class, my Espanol, and came back, and I picked up my documents. So now it's like, 1 o'clock on Tuesday, 1,000 Cordoba. So we're talking $22 and change to get these last 2 documents done. No problem with the payment. I literally called him on Monday at 1 in the afternoon, met him first thing on Monday morning, and I was the one thing that he was taking care of on Tuesday morning. $22 and change for the on-the-spot service. I was so grateful. Again, shout out to Pablo. So I have all my documentation. Now, my buddy Ron had another friend in town that he had brought with him to Matagalpa. They got there the night before he picked me up, so they got here on Sunday, went around to some restaurants and clubs and that, checking things out. And his buddy Joe, Chicago Joe, meet Rockford Luke, 2 Illinois boys with the local. I took them to dinner on Monday night, and we went to Restaurante El Bacon, which is the balcony. We all had different variations of steak. El Bacon, great restaurant here in Matagalpa, highly recommended. So I had my marching orders on Tuesday of everything I needed. Now the question is, how do I get back to Managua? Ron was not going to be available. So my options are public bus system going between cities, a private driver, or a cab. A cab in and of itself is roughly $20 an hour US, and you would be charged for them. If you're getting a Matagalpa cabbie, you're looking at the 2 hours plus to get there, about $40. The 2 hours for him to go back, which is another 40 bucks. So that's $80 each way. That's a little pricey. A private driver, roughly about 60 bucks, 60 to 80 bucks each way, and you're in a private vehicle versus, the cab. About the same amount of money, and I don't have those immediate people on speed dial. I do have Oscar, who you saw when I did the video driving through Molina Norte and Lomas de San Francisco. I do have him on retainer, but again, wasn't looking to really use the bus. So or the taxi. So I decided to use the public bus systems. Up to this time, you've heard me mention on prior videos, I have not used any of the bus systems. I haven't used the city buses within Matagalpa. I hadn't used what people refer to as the chicken buses between the cities. So, chicken buses. There's the 2 bus terminals in town that you saw from the Easter video and the Good Friday video. The terminal to the north, where I'm close to, up here in Barrio Huanuca, only will take you from Matagalpa to the cities to the north and east of this city. And the bus terminal to the south that got cut from the Good Friday, which is on the Easter video, is Cotran Sur. That is the one in the southwest end of the city, and that will connect you with all the cities to the south and west. So that connects you to Istile. That connects you to Managua. It'll connect you through Leon, because all that pretty much, Managua is the main hub. So there is a standard bus and there's an express bus. You cannot get these bus schedules offline from any one website. You see a lot of out-of-date information. The best information I found was from a local hostel over here, Hostel La Hunda, but it still wasn't 100% accurate. What I knew at the time was the express bus leaves at 4:30 in the morning, the regular bus leaves at 4 a.m., and the regular bus takes 3 hours because it makes stops all along the way, and it was going to cost 86 cord. And the express bus takes you straight to Managua. It costs 106 cord. So $250, $288 US. 3-hour drive, 2-hour drive. I want to be there before they open, and Migracion, which is immigration in Managua, opens at 7:30 in the morning. So I'm determined to take the express bus. As you saw from those videos, it's a half-hour walk. I didn't want to try to get a cab coordinated ahead of time because they're not running very frequently for me to just hail one on the side of the street. So I didn't want to coordinate a cab ride to do the half-hour walk, and I had a whole bunch of people stressed out. My sister back in the States stressed out, the landlord and other people stressed out. Oh, you don't want to walk at those hours. It's not safe. It's not safe. I'm not small. I have situational awareness. I'm not Billy Badass. But I'm also not exactly the kind of person you would look at as an opportunity to roll in the street. So I walk with a heavy foot. I walk quickly. I walk with a purpose. And I really don't give people, I'm not staring at my phone. I don't have my phone out in front of me in the middle of the night. I'm not flashing jewelry. I don't have cash out. I'm not really giving anybody a reason to mess with me at early in the morning. So here it is. I got up Wednesday morning yesterday. I got up at 2:30 in the morning to be out the door by 3:30 in the morning so I could walk to the Southwestern bus station by 4 a.m. I get there at 4 a.m. I look over. I asked for the Botella de Espresso Managua, a ticket for the bus to go to the express, and I was pointed over directly to the bus driver. I didn't have to buy the ticket from the window. I just pay on the bus after we take off. They collect money. Okay, so I get on, I look over, and there are 2 express buses. There is one that's loading up, and there's one that's completely shut down because they run every hour. So I get on the express bus, and it left early. So we left at 10 after 4, not 4:30. So we leave, and I come to the realization that it may say express bus on the front, but it's actually running the normal route 10 minutes late, and it's going to stop at every single bus stop along the way, which means it's going to be about a 3-hour drive, not the 2-hour drive. And coincidentally, they charge me 100 cord for that bus ride, not 86 cord, not 106 cord, just a flat 100 cord. So $2.88. That was a cramped bus ride. These are old U.S. school buses. They call them chicken buses. One, because people say, and it's possible, you could literally see chickens on a bus. There is cargo strapped on top of buses. People are crammed into them like sardines. But if you know anything about U.S. school buses, the most famous brand was Bluebird. So the Bluebird looks a lot like the U.S. Postal Service Eagle, and the bird looks kind of like a chicken. So it's a chicken bus. So these are modernized. They're customized buses with a stereo and speakers and different upholstery, and they put a bunch of LED lights into them and things like that. So my first chicken bus ride. Other than these are school buses for children, the seats are really cramped together. My knees are into the front. I had somebody sitting next to me for the last third of the ride. But we got into Managua, and we got into morning traffic just west of the airport at the craziest of times. So I am the first one to complain about traffic in Florida. I have no intentions of ever driving again unless I absolutely have to. And I may buy a vehicle in about a year here, but again, I have no intentions on driving it myself. I will hire a full-time driver. We got just past the airport in the morning traffic. It's at a total gridlock. There are motorcycles and taxis driving on the sidewalk. So people were trying to get off the bus, and they couldn't step onto the sidewalk to get off the bus because there was a stream of over 20 motorcycles driving on the sidewalk. And then there was a cab, and then there was another cab on the sidewalk. Not even like a wheel on, wheel off, driving completely on. So the people waiting to get onto the bus are holding onto the fence to not be hit. Yeah. I will not be driving to Nicaragua. I will hire somebody who was born and raised here, who already has an indigenous level of calmness to the craziness. That's what they're going to get paid for. So we get to the central bus station, which is just south and west of the airport by about a mile. And now I'm looking at the clock, and it's 7:30. So now Migracion's open. I still need to take a cab for what is up to be a half-hour drive. It's 15 minutes when there's no traffic. It's morning time. It's a half hour. If you use the city cabs, you will pay more. We have InDrive, which is like Uber, who works. It's an app that works in Managua and kind of, sort of, in one or two other cities. It's not nationwide. It does not work in Matagalpa. So I pull out my InDrive app. I had a driver instantly there because they're circling the bus route. They know there's going to be people looking for cabs. I got a InDriver that got me there in a half hour for 160 cord and a 10% tip, which 180. We're still talking, 180. That's less than $6 US. And I got to Migracion for the second time in 48 hours. I got there at 8 a.m. They'd only been open for a half hour. I know which gate to go to. I know which line to get into. I put all my paperwork in front of the information desk. They sorted through my documents. They put them in the order of this form so the next person can zip through it really quickly. Gave me a number, and I see B, the line I should have been in on Monday, B03. So I go to sit down. I look up at the sign, now serving B03. Yay! As I walk up, a woman rushes into there and starts talking to the rep for about 20 minutes. Now, I didn't mention this earlier, but on Monday, I saw total chaos in this office. Again, you take a number, wait to be called, go to the booth assigned on the screen. I saw people walking in, interrupting other people being serviced and shoving paperwork under the window in front of the staff. And that behavior seemed acceptable. I saw a handful of individuals that were foreigners coming into Nicaragua with no attempt to communicate verbally, just walking in wherever they wanted to and shoving documents under the window in front of the next employee. And again, that seemed acceptable. I mean, I was government customer service. It burns my butt. But guess what? I'm the foreigner. I'm not from here. Whatever works for them, whatever gets the process done for them, that's on them. If they're willing to accept interruptions to what they were just working on, that's on them. I personally find it rude but we're dealing with people from all over the planet and different social norms, whatever. So I had to wait about 20 minutes for the woman that jumped in front of me while it was my turn. I went back to the same rep that I saw on Monday, big smile on my face, because again, she was the bearer of bad news. She wasn't the cause of bad news. So now I have my formulae filled out. I have the 2 documents that Pablo created for me on Tuesday. I have all the other original documents. I hand them all to her. Again, a little bit of disconnect with the Spanish. Found out as a pensionado or the rentista, you can only apply for the 1-year temporary residency. The 5-year permanent residency, which isn't truly permanent, still has to be renewed every 5 years, is reserved for the people that are true investors. So if you are creating a business in Nicaragua and you're creating jobs for Nicaraguans, you can apply for the 5-year residency. Doesn't matter which of those 3 programs you do, every 6 months, you're going to be renewing the ID card, the cedula, which needs to happen at Migracion in Managua. You cannot apply for your initial residency in any of the other departmentals, which is like a county in the States. There is a Migracion here in Matagalpa. I can't apply for my initial application there. I can apply for temporary tourist visa extensions there for a slightly higher fee. Takes a little longer to complete than going to Managua and doing it at headquarters. Once I have my cedula, it has to be updated every 6 months. You can do that from the local departamento. However, you have to mail that and your passport from the local office. They mail it into Managua. They mail it back to them. And you're without your ID for 10 to 12 days. I'm not really comfortable being in another nation without my passport and my cedula on me for 2 weeks. So in the future, I will update my cedula at the main office. And I have to reapply every year at the main office. So I'm going to be going to Managua, Migracion, twice a year, one way or the other. Just one involves more paperwork and a slightly higher fee than just renewing the ID card. So 8:20, I am done with Migracion. I spent 20 minutes in the building, winning. Now it's not even 8:30, and it's time to find another in-driver, which again was it was about a 2-minute wait. Another 160 cord ride back to the bus terminal with a 10% tip, so 180. Again, we're under $6. And this time when I get to the bus terminal, it is definitely the express bus to Matagalpa and continuing on. This bus was not an old school bus. This bus was an actual old charter bus. And it sat up higher, and the seats were more comfortable, and there was a little more leg room. And I lucked out because there are dual doors. I managed to go all the way to the back, and one row from the far back in front of the second door is open, and I was able to hang my legs off. So I had leg space this time. So if you get to the bus terminals early enough, food vendors are selling food alongside the buses. You open up the window, and they will hand the food to you. You hand the money to them while you're sitting in the bus waiting to go. And while we were on the ride, there was a vendor who rode half the journey, got dropped off midpoint, and is selling water, Coke Zero, a local soda, and variety of food. So I had gone with no coffee. I had gone with no food. I had my Camelback with me. I pretty much everywhere I go in Nicaragua, I have a hat with me that's on my head most of the time, hence the reason you don't see a sunburn. And I almost always have my Camelback on me so I can store a spare battery for my phone, one of these guys with the magnet. So I've got wet wipes. If you know anything about traveling in other countries, that's a good necessity to have with you. A safe place to put my paperwork for when I'm going to class, and up to 3 liters of water on my back. Hydration is paramount. I'm a big believer in hydration. So I get in this much more comfortable ride. It was a little more than 2 hours. They did drop people off. They weren't picking people up. They did drop a few people off about the halfway mark on because Matagalpa wasn't its final destination. It was going to keep on going a larger route. They also charged me 100 cord. So the 86 cord and the 106 cord that I had heard before, I got charged 100 cord on both buses. The express bus leaving Managua to Matagalpa left at exactly 9 a.m. like it was supposed to. The express bus running the regular bus technically left 10 minutes late from Matagalpa to Managua, and it appears that the other express wasn't going to be going anywhere at 4:30. And it is what it is. So I rode a regular chicken bus. I rode the express bus for the first times. Pleasant experience. I mean, they do get crammed. They do get packed, and especially depending on which hour of the day you're leaving. If you need to do anything early in the morning in the capital, I advise getting up at dark 30. If you're not comfortable walking streets late at night, go ahead and coordinate a cab ahead of time to pick you up, take you to the Southern Bus Terminal. And it's easy peasy. It's really simple. And you're paying less than $3 for public transportation each way. It's about a 75-mile ride each way for less than $3. You're paying about $3 on the, you're paying less than $6 on each of the cab rides in the city. If I had taken a Nicaraguan Managua city cab, I would have paid probably 25 to 30% higher. So the InDrive app is something you can download on your phone before you get here. And I spent less than $30 for a 10-hour day of travel in transportation. I spent 20 minutes in Migracion the second time around. So a reminder of what you can do to streamline this. They did not take the official translations of the apostille and the documents the first or the second time. I will highly encourage you to get those. Just because it wasn't needed in my packet when I submitted it doesn't mean I may not get a phone call in the future saying, hey, we want these documents. Why didn't you submit them? I have them. But they did not take the official translation of the apostille and the official documents. They took the original documents, they took the apostille that's already attached to it, and they took the notarial statements written by the local lawyer for those two documents. That they took. So that was my birth certificate, and that was my 3 pension statements. They took the formulae, they took the health certificate, they took the background check, they took the 2 passport photos, and I did not pay this round. The only thing I paid was the $3 for the form. So if you look online, you see the 5-year residency is $550. We had heard and had unconfirmed information that price rate was raised to $610 a year ago. If you are an investor filing for residency in Nicaragua, it is $610 for your 5-year residency. Everybody else is going to do the 1-year temporary, and that cost is $155 US. You cannot pay that in Cordoba. You have to pay it in U.S. funds, which is good because you don't want a stack of cords this big to pay these bills. So I did not pay the $155 yesterday. The instructions are you've completed all your documentation. They had actually taken my tourist stamp on Monday out of my passport, which scared the hell out of me, and they replaced it now with a new piece of paper that shows that I'm in the process of going through residency. I was also informed, because my last entry date was March 30th and you're on a 90-day visa, that my visa would be expiring soon, end of June, and I would have to do an extension. Wanted to know, do I want to go ahead and have the exemption pre-done? And I've already planned for that. I informed them through Lester, the guy that spoke the English. Again, kudos to Lester. I said, no, I'm already planning a border run. I have to go back to Florida on the 26th of June. I'll be back mid-July. He goes, okay. You don't pay today. You're waiting for a phone call. You have to answer that call. Don't know when that phone call is going to be. I said, can we give me a ballpark? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 3 months? Because from people who have filed within the last year, I've heard 3 weeks and I've heard 3 months. Historically, it took a lot longer. In regards to my packet, not doing this, but on paperwork, I'm exactly who they want filing residency. I don't have a criminal background. I don't have any health issues that are a public health concern. I've got 4 times the amount of money they want as a minimum to come into the country and then some. So there's no reason to deny me. My only barrier to becoming a full-blown resident here is my own language barrier, which I'm working on. Poco y poco, entiendes. That's it. So I'm waiting for a phone call. At some point in time, they will schedule the in-home interview, which is done entirely in Spanish. I can have a translator that cannot answer for me, but can repeat what was questioned from Spanish to English. I still have to respond in Spanish. And then at some point in time, I'll pay $155 to get the cedula. My residency is then complete. So I am done with Migracion for all intents and purposes for some amount of time. Every piece of paperwork's been submitted. Health certificate didn't expire. Interpol didn't expire. It took 2 visits to do it. However, I needed to get the form done anyways. And now the YouTube world has the most accurate information as of this week. So that's a reminder. The information I'm bringing to you, this is my personal experience at this moment. It's a smaller country. The government runs differently, and because they're a little more dynamic, it's a little more fluid. The information is valid as of today. That information could change tomorrow, and it's not going to be published all over the news. It's not going to be published all over the internet. They're not going to put out public service announcements in the mail. You will find this out when you go to apply. So it is what it is. Again, you cannot fully do all of this from the States. Do not do your FBI background check in the States, which is only good for 90 days, because by the time you get here, you're still going to need to do the Interpol, which is only good for 90 days. Do not do your health certificate stateside, which is only good for 90 days. By the time you get here, it's going to be expiring, and then you're still going to have to do another health certificate once you get here, which is only good for 90 days. To streamline this, get all your stateside documents done, get the notaries where appropriate, get the apostilles, do not get them translated, do that in country. And unlike me, to tweak what I did, go find your long-term lease first. If that means being on tourist mode and doing 90-day extension, or doing the 90 days and doing 30-day extensions, or doing border runs over to Costa Rica, or flying back to Florida for a day, or what have you. Stay in tourist mode until you find the house, home, apartment, casa, finca, whatever, that you want to do a long-term lease for. Because this is the city I've decided I want to be in long term. You may not want to stay in the first city you came to. You may think the idea of one town is great until you've actually lived in it. Then you decide, oh, I don't want it. It's still too hot, or there's too many people, there's too much noise, or whatever it is that doesn't appeal to you. Go find the long-term lease first. Then, after you've signed that long-term lease and you have a local home, then plan on doing 2 weeks in Managua. Why 2 weeks? The Interpol background check, you have to come in on a morning and return 8 days later in an afternoon to get the Interpol done. That document still needs to be notarized by a local attorney. It's already in Spanish, there's no translation. Your health certificate, you need to go do a physical and lab work. The lab work's not going to come back same day. It may take 2-3 days to get the lab work back. And then, again, it needs to be notarized by a local attorney. It's already in Spanish. You don't need it translated. Those are the 2 time-sensitive documents. So plan on 2 weeks in Managua. Do those 2 documents. Go see an attorney to get those 2 documents notarized, because you've already gotten everything else taken care of in your new hometown. The other documents are already notarized. And then go to Migracion. If you've already looked at the formulaic and you've seen an example of it online, or your Spanish is proficient, you can then pay the $3, fill out the form, and turn it all in same day. Most people are not going to do this in just one day. Some can. If not, you're going to get the formulaic, and you're either going to complete it there or take it home and then return with the entire packet. I still highly encourage, when you go to Migracion, you really want to be there 7:30 in the morning. The reason Monday was such a cluster, they had been shut down for a 3-day work weekend, 4 days in total, and it was the first day back to work. So there was a lot of people trying to get services done, and I got there an hour after they opened. So it took over 4 hours to find out I'd been in the wrong line. So these things happen. So the recap of all of this was Migracion's done. First 2 chicken bus rides. I've got regular and express under my belt. I'm far more comfortable about if I want to go visit in Leon, if I want to go visit in Istile, if I want to go to the north. The buses there's nothing wrong with the buses. Depending on what time of day you take, they could be very packed, but they're very economical. And it's about the same amount of drive time. All of that being said, that was my update. I wanted to keep this shorter than yesterday's. We're just over 40 minutes. Again, thank you for subscribers. 3 months in operation on the channel. Please hit like, hit subscribe, send in your comments. The list is online now. It's already posted under the posts, so not under video. And a picture of the little workshop area here. And with that, I wish you all well, and adios.